Welcome to Gerald Johan Van Wa's educational channel. Today we'll do something different as in the last couple of book reviews and examples of my book, which were mostly referring to the sound in form and the theoretical aspects and the practical aspects of it. But there were also studies in that book which are related with scripts and with cultural aspects. One of the aspects is, one of the subjects is, are the several scripts and languages that have their own system and their own order, which is interesting to see. And I started investigating the Arab script and language, not in the detail, but in the ideas that creation of the scripts that are behind these ideas, working through the formation of this order that is behind the letters. I started to investigate this in the Changeling of Seasons, but in that book it was of course related with the seasons, with the astrology, and so on. The second time when I started to analyze it, it's more about the whole system of logic that lives behind it. And that's more, of course, about the meaning of the sounds and letters mostly. It's in the second part of this volume, which is actually the application of the word. The study is in full. Then I have to talk about religion. Why? Because this script and language is connected with the whole idea that is also alive in the religious thoughts and the spiritual thoughts that are busy in the minds of the people. Not just the tendency of the letters, which is another aspect which I also discussed, and the tendency that they have of disorder, that is indeed something else. But I talk a little bit about this religion because it's important to put this into a perspective that everybody can do something about it. Today we are quite fanatic in religion. It's either you are for religion and you are a believer, or you're a non-believer otherwise, and you're very skeptical because you noticed all these abuses and abuse for power and so on. The organized religion has, of course, these aspects, but everything has these aspects. So it is not the most important thing to take out solely. There are other things behind it. So, in fact, once the adaptable form of religion started from the importance that you have to remember certain associations which nowadays actually still are mostly forgotten. So it is a bit vague. We slowly have this connection. We only slightly have this connection. So just to keep it a bit safe, we change it into a belief system. Actually, as soon as it is a belief system, it is already somewhat forgotten because the connection is not 100% there, but in that way we keep it connected a little bit, and we hope to remember all aspects of it by remembering the whole time. It helps us to keep the forgotten connected, at least that we think. The people who don't believe this say no, they note especially the blind aspects of it, because it is a bit frustrating, because once you start to focus mainly on the belief system, you also don't really know how or why. It's just you accept it, but it's not filled in very easily. When it was connected very easily, it mostly is also a kind of folkloristic or folk aspect that is connected with people. So we have at that point an automatic ground in timed or connected frames in reality, and it keeps us connected with certain rhythms in nature or certain interpretations, even some joy of connecting or associating some other things, or if we give it some color, what we associate with it. So it is in that way more often kept intact when it's a folkloristic and folk or group aspect in that way, and it is in the danger to be forgotten or is already forgotten when it is solely a belief system. So both of these groups can use a kind of filter to focus upon what is true of it, what is real of it, and what is not. For the believers, it's a filter. For the non-believers, it's a kind of tool. So this is the common sense, of course, the common sense and the sensibility. Both of them are needed, because the common sense alone could be a bit primitive as well if they say like, oh, there's nothing in it because I don't know anything. But the sensibility needs, of course, also certain knowledge and investigation until the certain original connections are shown. And that is I want to talk about. Of course, the belief keeps it helps. This belief helps to keep the forgotten intact, and the other ones could eventually make folk associations and learn to understand it. It is important to remember the past and see where the connections comes from. For the religious people, it is how it is connected. For the others, it is why the connection exists. So there is a certain reach of vividness where it is alive or where it isn't. You have to keep an eye to what works and what doesn't. So not everything that has kept from the past still works or still gives you joy and these things. But it's good to have this investigation open, that you make the real connection with the vivid connections, with the common sense intact. One of the people who investigated the Arab script in the spiritual aspect was Ibn Arabi. He came from the Sufi tradition. I read one book, The Mystical Astrology According to Ibn Arabi, very small book. I see now that there is a second book out also, The Written World of God, the Cosmic Script and the Art of Ibn Arabi. I will read that one in the future too. The Sufism is a bit strange that it fits with both groups that I mentioned, because it's not important that you in some way it's not important how you connect to the truth behind it. In some way, Sufism itself made also a compromise to the reality of the older tradition they already had about the truth in general, and the Islamic aspect came to it, so they really had no choice other than to integrate it completely, and they made it perfectly understand so that they had a right balance in what they knew already, the older essence and the new system. And Ibn Arabi described it also in an order of balance and an order of history as well, which is interesting to see because it puts things in a very realistic perspective. And this brings us to the letters. The letters themselves have a kind of balance that is related with the language, and it is I discovered that it is very fit to the region, to the circumstances, a kind of balance to the elements which is different in several languages or several scripts. Every script seems to have its own balance, and this balance in the Arab script fits also quite well with the religion that is related with it. And all these scripts that I investigate, or many of these scripts, I can describe that there seems to be a vivid philosophy behind it, because it directs you in a certain direction of thinking. And I call this direction the word as well. The word, it has a meaning there's literature about it, about the word. The word nowadays in the religious and monotheistic religions, they associate it a little bit with the books themselves, but I see it much more literal as that. It's really about living words, not loving words, living words that guide you to a certain direction and approach and gives you an inspired balance that brings you back into balance all the time. So I talked about the word from Japanese, and Chinese as examples, and in the Arab language is one of them as well, which I started to do. It could be worked out further, but it is just only the beginning. And all these religions that came out of it, they kept certain words of importance. These words were in fact important in language, in the direction of language, in the direction of how you had to think. At that point you have to see that it is neutral. At other points you have to see if is it vivid, has it common sense in that way. So there are certain words that inspire you, and these words are also in these kept in these religions as words of importance and inspiration that they use as foundations. Not necessary they are like we associate them as gods, but it's not necessary to do that. But the things are the same if you see them as aspects or as rulers or that kind of thing. It's the same thing. So it's the same for non or believers or believers, but there is a natural balance, and it's a vivid balance. It works. It works. This word balance is there. In the Christian teachings, we know that they used a Jewish text who did have these original names intact, and later they translated into it to God. Just one word, God. Very vague word, which because otherwise it would be too difficult to have 5 or 10 different many different words that are now associated with God or a higher aspect, but it loses a connection a bit with these words, which is sad, because this was the essence, I think, about it. So words like El, or Elohim in Genesis, Jehovah, Yahweh, we still remember them in certain associations, Adonai, and so on. They are also known in Kabbalah, so you can understand the aspects there as well. And they all refer to a certain specified sensibility, which has a spiritual aspect, a metaphysical aspect, but it's certainly not the vagueness of the word God, which makes you believe very quickly, blindly believe, and just fill it in with your thoughts instead of with your that activate your sensibility. So it leads you to an idea of, okay, I have to remember something, but you don't know what it is anymore, which is sad a bit, but it can help you, but I think it's a bit sad. It's a shame, because it can be much more than that. You can connect yourself with the living words and direct you and live actually with making the right connections everywhere. Anyway, there are words that are much more alive and guide you. That's the idea that I want to express here. And this idea of the word, it has other associations in some literature, like in the Theosophy. Blavatsky talked about not the word, but she translated to the logos. Logos as a kind of logical, natural language, which can be discovered in the letters, actually. And I discovered this kind of logical system, or word, as in many of these scripts. It is a guidance which you can use, but it is, don't forget, it fits not just to the language, but also to certain circumstances which define these values. In the Arab scripts, we can say the whole background traditions can be recognized. So it's good, if you are speaking Arab or understand language, to know your history. It is associated in it, and you can associate it with the letters as well. If you are learning the letters, take this aspect as well. And also good to know is that once you understand the letters better, you can more and more understand that this refers to a specific circumstance. So the idea behind it is that you can't use the same kind of thinking for all circumstances. So it gives a bit perspective to all of this. So not any of the systems of not any of the language is truly universal to all circumstances. So you have to adapt a little bit. So before it fits to all circumstances. And that is difficult because you have an automatic way of thinking, and it's in balance into the circumstance where it started, but in different circumstances you have to correct it a little bit, because it's not complete if the circumstances are different, because you can't recognize them by this order. So that is the disadvantage of any of the languages. So when I first started it, it was I wrote it about the Ibn Arabi ideas in the changeling of seasons, and the letters are given an order on the 28 moon days, moon aspects that have also astrological places. Possibly it was inspired on some Indian texts. It's not just that that one group is more superior to another, so they are inspired. But when people are inspired by each other, they come to something extra, and something the superiority comes from these interconnections, and they make it even more valuable if this is allowed. And in these days it was allowed to read Greek text, Indian text, and they had their own ideas and adapted it to their own environment. So that in that way it is masterly done. So this astrological order is of course a reference, and thanks to that we learn why things are as they are. The circumstances of this language, we know it started actually in a sort of war of conflict situation. So we have to know that it started from difficulties, and so from a circumstance where fast decisions are needed. So it's like it's very hot, it's dry, it's not a lot of nutrition everywhere, so we have to be careful not to destroy the seeds of everything which is valuable. So they the reference they still kept is that as if we are still in a purgatory situation with black and white circumstances, where it is much more important that we trust what we already have, the other experiences that we build up, then we are trying to experiment ourselves, because then that's a risk. That risk is too high. So we have to deal with limited circumstances, and then we base ourselves upon the history itself. Some of the letters and the scripts are based upon, like the Aleph is really the letter of skepticism. So it could lead, all this idea could lead easily, could lead to the philosophy, but it's even more skeptical than it is. It's more like keep the main focus, keep the essence, so that we are not distracted. It's much more important, and a helpful thing of it is the whole group history, and there we build on further. They don't destroy any of these aspects. They try to remember that, because that's the most easy thing to do. There's only progress after we dealt with all the aspects of the group, and in which aspect the group is living at that point is also important. So all of these languages, you can order them on the 4 seasons, and here we have the 4 colors. The colors can be different because it's just about the attention that you give it, so you can have a different order, but here the ideal circumstances start in spring, summer, and then you can build up further. If this is not ideal circumstances, you start somewhere else. So here there was a skeptic limitation in before winter, and in the after summer already they started to adapt and correct what has not been going well in spring. So this is circumstances which need adaptations, and these adaptations are described in the first book, Changeling of Seasons. These adaptations you can see there in the orange color and the purple and the indigo color. So it's a compensation after conflict in the purple, the skeptical objections in the indigo, and the orange is all the group adaptations that are dealt with during the history of circumstantial decisions. So it's a learning process, so you adapt yourself to what you learned before. The other thing that I also described, okay, that was very quick. The other thing that I also described was the comparison of these 28 parts with other systems. The systems of Chinese astrology with the 28 parts, the ancient Egyptian astrology with the 28 parts and letters, the Greek associations with letters, compared with the Arabic. So the ancient Egyptian order seems to be quite in harmony with everything and in an order of constant variation. The China is more like a physical order of active maintenance, if I remember well. And the Arab script, yeah, it is, yeah, the yin and yang there is dominated by this aspect of skepticism, because the conditions need to be made right, so the attention goes completely to this aspect of giving attention to the conditions. Are you sure they are right at this point? Otherwise we don't change anything, we don't do anything. Another aspect that I described is also from Ibn Arabi, is in the body you can see all these letters also, and it is compared to the digesting process, and they are connected with the letters. Just one letter I take out here, the D is there somewhere at the stomach, and there it is extracting the substances, of course. The D as a letter, the associative meaning is, of course, also you open up yourself to widen your distinction, and in fact it is taking in new elements in the stomach, so it fits as well. So even with Arabic association, it's also universal association. And the last aspect that I associated were the studies about the 20 names associated with Allah, and the letters that are connected with it. I already explained the word Allah as a synonym to everything that is in progress towards the spiritual supporting creation, and that works. So that's a description of the word, actually. If you just analyze these letters and see how they are connected, that's more or less what it means. And it's good to know that you have an inspiration, extra inspiration of the word, not just of an idea of what all is about it, but about the word itself. And all these letters are associated with the astrological associations. I only take out a few of them, like the D again. So here it is associated with allowing what is evident, and it is at this aspect of the head of Libra, so that highlight of Libra. It's associated with the seventh heaven of the 7 aspects that you have to deal with, and it's related with Adam. So Adam is the first foundation of the whole group that is grown into differences of aspects that are leading the group. The first Adam was then let's say the primitive man, but the first man, which was also from a masculine society in that way, the first one. And here it's still by the letter D. It is broadening its own perspective just by adding what is evident. So what is still evident, that is kept. All the rest which is not evident, it is taken out. The next aspect, which is associated with Isa or Jesus, is Jesus was someone who presented the aspect that everybody counted as much. And also in Libra, the letter T is associated with it as a kind of, I will take the next slide and there I will explain it. So it is like whatever it is useful and noticeable, you can take. So it is association, you can have the association with the aspect of in the history there, so you can understand the vowels or consonants and understand the astrology and understand the spiritual aspect and the historical aspect and the religious aspect. You can all combine them and gives them form and gives them a bit life. I will not go too much into it, I'm already busy a little bit too long. Anyhow, so thanks for watching. You can check my website or subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.